Hello, beautiful people, beings. I was going to say existences. That didn't sound right. I haven't done a podcast in a while. I find that while I'm finding balance with work and rest and quiet time, that I am not having time to do these podcasts. So think I need to adjust something because I do love doing the podcast, unless I'm not supposed to do it anymore. I haven't had any insights on that, but hopefully, I haven't even been able because I remember a few podcasts ago I said I was going to try to tape them in advance so that I have, like a backlog of them, but I haven't even been able to do any podcasts at all. So, what's going on with me? What's going on with you? What's going on with you? I want to know. I have finished the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ, which I found to be very interesting and insightful. Again, you know, some of it I think is filtered through the channel and what he could possibly understand or how he would have appreciated stories being told. And so I think, there's going to be variances there because some of the stuff wasn't, didn't have, most of it was, I would say about 85 to 95% of it kind of resonated with other books I've read, but some things didn't. And I think there's just little tweaks in perspective. Which one's correct? I don't know. I know which one more resonates with me, and I like the storytelling of, right? But that will be different for other people. And I'm not sure if there's a right or wrong. Not sure it's super important at this space and time that we are in. It could be, but I don't know. I think kind of like if we I think, and this is just my understanding, at this stage, and this may change. The patterning kind of is important right now more than the specifics, I suspect. But I don't really know. So, but I did enjoy the book and I found it quite valuable. I'm glad that I listened to it on Audible. I'm now reading listening to the Raw Contact Volume 1 on sorry guys, on Audible. So this one is kind of like it's like an interview process more than a story. And let me see who the the writers are. Does it say? Not sure it does. Let's see. No, I can't see it on this thing. I tell you, but I can't see it on the page. I think it has three authors, because it was three people that were a part of the project. One lady that was the channel, um, another gentleman that was asking the questions to the entity that she was channeling, who calls itself Ra, R-A. And I think somebody else was also in the room. Let's see if it tells me. The Raw contact. So I found that after reading the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ, I was looking for something else of interest. I find myself really interested in this type of book for the past 2 years. Before that, I used to like romance and mystery and I always like to read or storytelling. It could be movies or books, or puppetry, or I just love storytelling. Um, so I saw that I had gotten this one. No, not the raw material, the raw contact. I guess they have different books. It says Carla Ruckert, Don Elkins, and James McCarthy, the raw contact, law, the teaching, the raw contact, teaching the law of one, volume one. So by Carla Ruckert, Rueckert, Don Elkins, and James McCarthy. And my God, so much material and explanation on how it all works. It's very scientific, kind of similar to the Hathors. And they kind of explain themselves similarly. I don't know if it's the same being. Both are from Venus. And I believe I don't remember if Hathor was six dimensional. Ross, they're saying that they're six dimensional social consciousness um, that wants to help humanity um, progress. And they give a lot of information, a lot of historical information about humanity, about the earth, about how the metaphysical works, the physical works, physics. Um, It's a lot of information. I don't know if anyone else has read it or listened to it. I think I would have a hard time reading it. But I am able to listen to it a lot easier because it's like an interview, basically. Like they're asking the entity questions and it's answering um quite eloquently. Not sure I always understand what it's saying, but they do try to simplify it for us. Sometimes they say there's no way to really answer it in our terms, but they'll try to simplify it in a way that we can understand. And even that is sometimes quite difficult. But also they talk about our energy centers, like our centers and how that works. And then like the questioner is really good too, because he asks like some really good questions. Sometimes they'll say in your time space, and then they'll say in space time. But so like there's a difference, and I've been like trying to figure out what is the difference. So I didn't get to like I think chapter 42 or something. He finally says, so what's the difference between time space and space time? And they say what's physical and what's not able to be seen. And I was like, oh, such a simple explanation. I was looking and Googling. Anyway, I'm really enjoying this book. It's not as short as the Hathors. I really like the Hathors because I felt like at that stage that's what I could tolerate. I think I had this book in my Audible library for a while, but I wasn't ready yet for it because, like the Course in Miracles, it's pretty in depth and it's long. And so I'm in volume one, but I think there are four volumes, but I'm not sure. It could be more volumes because I just saw the raw material. So it looks like there's some more books, and this will keep me occupied for quite some time, but I am enjoying it. I do have to take a break from it, though. Sometimes I feel a bit overwhelmed or anxious with what's being shared. And I have no idea because the stuff they're saying isn't really scary. But I think just sometimes it takes a while to integrate the information, or you feel overloaded with information. I felt that way too with this other video I had watched on YouTube a few years ago, but I shared it with you where this guy was really experimenting with accessing um, other dimensions and how to, I forgot what he was doing, how to meditate, what happened when he meditated for like 200 days straight, what kind of experience he had, how he took was it? He took a legal form of what ayahuasca is, the ingredients of ayahuasca, but it's illegal. It might be synthetic form of it. And I think he got stuck in time for a long time, it felt like. When he came back, of course, it wasn't long, but he felt like he was there for years. So this guy was experimenting a lot. I posted the video a while ago. I can't remember it now, but it felt the same way like when I was looking at that video with all the information it was given. Sometimes too, when I get a lot of information and clarity and understanding of how things work, then I get really bored because then the mystery's over and then I'm like, wow, there's nothing to seek anymore or to see. I'm sorry, somebody's walking outside my back door looking in. I think it's the homeowners association. I gotta fix my back fence, y'all. Anyway, so yeah, so sometimes I do overwhelm myself and sometimes I find out too much and I am like bored because there's no mystery anymore. But that's not true, right? Because after a while, like if I don't listen to it for like 2 or 3 days, the seeking and the mystery and the excitement of finding out stuff returns. So I just need a little space to do that, but sometimes that happens to me. Anyways, we are still reading the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. I wonder if that was the Homeowners Association. They better not have asked me with my thoughts, you know? Anyways, let me put on my glasses. Let me pause this. All right, guys. So we're going to continue with the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. I actually don't remember where we stopped at last time. I feel I'm going to have to start over. Did I even dog air it? I feel like, oh, yes, I did dog air it. Thank you, Jesus. Text with commentary. So I did complete the Gospel, Mary Magdalene. Yay! Okay, so now we're going to read over the text with the commentary from the author, who, let's not forget, is an academic. I find it to be very intellectual, but still understandable mostly. Let's go. Pages 1 to 6 are missing, so we are on page 7 of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. What is matter? Will it last forever? The teacher answered, all that is born, all that is created, all the elements of nature are interwoven and united with each other. All that is composed shall be decomposed. Everything returns to its roots. Matter returns to the origins of matter. Those who have ears, let them hear. What is matter? Before asking questions about the meaning, purpose, or workings of the world, it is appropriate to inquire into what it really is, and if it was made to last or not. Will it last forever? Might it not be an illusion? With the Gospel of Mary, it is clear from the start that we are dealing with a deeply metaphysical perspective. Prior to any questions about our actions and their rightness or wrongness, it is important to ask if we are and who we are before we ask the ancient questions. Why does the world contain evil and suffering? We must first question how we know it exists at all. Thus, the path of Christianity that we find in this gospel is one of gnosis, a divine knowledge. It goes deeper than the teaching of rules by which we can live and improve ourselves. Here, Yeshua has something to say about the fundamental nature of the world and of humanness. The Gospel of Mary presents him as the teacher, and the teaching he transmits contains the knowledge necessary for the reintegration of human beings with themselves and with their source and principle. That that one, the one that in most of the Gospels Yeshua calls his Father. My Father and your Father, and my God and your God, as he tells Mary Magdalene in John 20:17. These are the teachings that can restore human beings to their lost parentage, to an indescribably singular intimacy with their source. Yeshua has always lived in this intimacy, and his words and actions are the expression and manifestation of it. Some translators of this gospel have rendered the word for teacher as savior. This is another possibility, but only if we bear in mind then what people really need to be saved from is their ignorance and forgetfulness of the being that is their source and destination. Human beings are to be saved from their ignorance and obliviousness of the presence that Yeshua embodies. First and foremost, salvation is known of the truth that shall make us free. I'm sorry, I have to read that over. I read it wrong. First and foremost, salvation is knowledge of the truth that shall make us free, free of attachments and identifications with that which we mistake for real being. In these verses, it is matter that is taken as an example of this. The teacher answered, all that is born, all that is created, all the elements of nature are interwoven and united with each other. All that is composed shall be decomposed. This reminder of the interdependence and impermanence of all things is striking in its resonance with contemporary thinking. Nothing exists in itself or by itself, for the world is a vast tapestry woven of relations. Not even the smallest strand in this web can be tugged without affecting all the myriad strands and interdependencies to which it is connected and of which it is composed. This is true of matter, and it is also true of the nature of the human body and the psyche that animates it. Everything that exists is a more or less complex pattern of components and is therefore subject to decomposition. All that is composed shall be decomposed. This is a truth that reminds us that this universe we perceive has not always existed, and it will not exist forever. What has a beginning also has an end. Ignorance of impermanence generates illusions, attachments, and therefore suffering. All the ancient wisdom traditions tell us this. For those who have ears capable of hearing this word of the teacher, this can be a source of salvation and freedom. No longer do we continue to indulge in the idolatry of matter. This appreciation of the ephemeral and relative nature of all things actually enables us to love better. We begin to see all things with that loving yet detached regard and equanimity that are the signs of a genuine health of soul. In Greek, the word soteria means both health, wholeness, and salvation. The teacher then adds, everything returns to its roots. Matter returns to the origins of matter. All evolution involves a return, yet a return in this sense is not the same as regression. To return is not to go back, rather, the return is accomplished by moving forward. It is a return to the place that is both our origin and our destiny, our Alpha and our Omega. Here, we make an important distinction between the origin or the source and the beginning. We return to the source, not to our beginning. Furthermore, the kingdom that is spoken of in the Gospel of Mary must not be confused with a return to some sort of lost paradise or primal state of consciousness. Rather, it signifies an awakening to this very dimension of being that is the source of our existence now, and of the mystery of there being something instead of nothing. A grain of wheat contains the information that will later generate roots, stem, leaves, and finally the new grains, which ripen slowly with sun and rain, and finally offer themselves to the nourishment of those who eat them. Then comes winter, decay, and the new planting of the grain, returning to the roots, yet also to the root symbolized by the information in the grain. Oh, this kind of confusing. I'm going to read it over, okay? Then comes winter, decay, and the new planting of the grain, returning to the root, yet also to the root symbolized by the information in the grain. But the true source cannot be grasped by the mind, though it is the source of the mind and of all things. Thus, matter returns to the origins of matter, yet the ultimate source can never be an object of any kind and can only appear as nothingness. Nothing that can be found in the all of which it is the cause. Nothing can be found in the all of which it is the cause. And speaking of the Logos, the Gospel of John 1:3, which was probably written during the same period, says that through him all things come into being. Not one thing came into being except through him. The Logos, the origin, this nothing that is the cause of everything and through which all things have their being. What are we speaking of when we speak of this divinity as he, she, or it? Surely it is nothing that can be imagined, thought, or represented. Yet, if we also subscribe to the principle that nothing comes from nothing, then what can be the meaning of this unthinkable fecundity, this womb of emptiness? A lot of intellectual speech here, speak here. Those who have ears at them hear. This recurrent phrase is not some elitist irony through which the teacher alludes to secret tidbits, nor does it reflect an impatience with long explanations. It is an invitation to have ears, to develop an organ of subtle perception, a special faculty of attention. We are not yet speaking of the visionary new of the following verses, but of the contemplative intelligence that arises from endless wonder at all being, a kind of feeling for the infinite open, without which the unveiling of true being is impossible. For the real only offers itself to those who take the time needed to hear, those who can endure and listen fully to the silence of the fathomless before it finally begins to speak. So here, yes, listening to silence. This has been a lesson for me too that has come through the last few weeks. I had a dream that kind of said that I wasn't investing in my growth, in my health. What the dream was essentially saying. It says by me not wanting to pay for lunch, y'all. I didn't want to pay for lunch in the dream. I was really upset about it. I didn't want to. And so speaking with my dream analyst, Jill, I didn't pick up on it, but she was like, this is kind of saying that you don't want to invest in your growth and your healing and what's good for you, because if you're eating in a dream, it's giving you stuff that you need to heal. And if you don't want to pay for it, I hadn't gone to lunch yet, but I was supposed to go to lunch. Somebody asked me to go to lunch. I didn't want to pay for the lunch. Basically is saying, like, I don't want to invest in myself. So that's been coming up for me. And so I was like pondering that a little bit. It's like, what do I need to do to invest? Like first I was like, well, do they want me to pay for these spiritual courses or what have you? But not, I'm doing one now. It doesn't end until the end of March, not March, end of February. And then so I'll probably look at other options that I can invest in. But then I was like, I don't think I had to understand it. It wasn't just like they didn't mean like physical pain, my divine self or my angels and guides that were, trying to communicate with me in these dreams. I understood that they wanted me to invest um more quiet time. So generally I do try to look at the sunset every day. I like that time of day to just be in my room and relax and look at the sunset. What was kind of happening was I was missing it because I was working. Um, so now I like definitely have a cutoff time, and so I don't miss that. But also like a lot of that quiet time, I'm not that quiet. So I'll be in the room looking at the sunset, but I might pick up my phone and look at something really quick, or I might I'll be listening to the meditations for the soul convergence I'm doing with Antaka at that time, which is fine as well, but it's not silence with myself. So I do listen to the meditations sometimes during that time. Sometimes I'll do it right before I go to bed. Sometimes I do before I go to bed, and then like if I get up in the night, sometimes because you get up like 2 or 3, I'll put it on again and listen to the meditations there. But I make sure trying to get more time, just quiet time with the sunset. And sometimes the quiet time will be a different time of day. So on the weekends, I do that sunset, but I also love like the mornings, like slow mornings, just getting up and just enjoying the view from my bedroom window. So I got actually, like I get 2 quiet times, trying to extend it to an hour or more in the evenings during the week. But I also don't want to make it structured so much as more enjoyment. So like I don't want to time it either. Like when I feel like it's time to stop or I'm not doing it because I enjoy it, but I'm just doing it because I have to, then I'll pull out and do something else. And just try to follow as well my joy uh related to it, right? So I had a night the other night where I did look at it for like 20 minutes. And then I went for a walk, came home, shower, whatever. And my daughter went out and I was looking at YouTube and I was like looking at so many music videos from like the 80s and 90s from my childhood. I was just loving all the songs and looking at and YouTube kept showing me more cool songs from my childhood and my youth. And I was like, oh my God. So I did that. I listened to it for a long time, about an hour or two, I was just listening to and just enjoying it. And then when I was ready, I went upstairs again and I had my meditations. Well, not meditations, listening to the meditations from the Soul Convergence. And then that night, I had another hour of just quiet time with myself. Just think, just quiet, no TV, no book, no audible just myself and trying my thoughts and then allowing my thoughts to quiet, but hearing them out first and stuff. And I found that I got a lot of understand things flow when I do that. Then I get like understandings of how the next day should be and how to make the day good and to cook and what I'm gonna cook. And sometimes I don't know what I want to eat, and that's a battle in itself. But if I get quiet for a length of time and I ask my body, what do you want? What feels good to you? I just feel for something that I want to cook or something like that. So I find like when I do that, my day flows a lot better. But yeah, so sometimes it's not always like structured. It's not always the sunset for an hour, right? It's for how long I can enjoy it. But I find that I do enjoy it a lot longer now. And I do try to to do at least an hour a day. But I don't want it to be work. I want it to be fun. It's very important for me. So if I'm not feeling it right now, I know I'll feel it in another time of day and I'll do it then, you know? And I'm open to the magic of the day or the joys of the day that are unexpected. Like those videos, I had no clue they were going to come up, or even that I would enjoy listening to it, right? So that would be it. Or it might be a post on Instagram. Of speaking of which, I'm thinking about if I should just get rid of Instagram and Threads. I do have like one little account on Facebook just for the Soul Convergence group, but I don't really go on there either. And I'm like, but how would I stay connected? Also, it's such a distraction. But then I don't want to I don't want to be so out of it that I'm not living life and appreciating the lessons and the opportunities and experiences here to grow, but also not being overwhelmed by the external, right? So it's like a balance for me. And I don't know. I think I'm ready to let it go, to be honest. Because I still have YouTube and I still have Pinterest, and those are quite interesting for me too. I don't know. I'm still going back and forth with it. Um, so I think I'm supposed to get rid of it because I'm working on this thing where you can get answers from your angels and guides, right? So I'd say, okay, if the answer is yes, I'd like to see a rainbow in some form. So sometimes it could be like a real rainbow or a movie or a book or a picture or a post or something. And if the answer is no, I have another thing as a symbol. And so yesterday I asked about getting rid of the Instagram and the threads and the Facebook. And I saw a rainbow like an hour or two later on this, but it was a different. It's always different ways of seeing the rainbow. I was looking at a video on YouTube and they had used like you didn't see a rainbow, but they used like a rainbow effect on the video they were using. What they call that? I forgot what they call it. A filter, a rainbow filter on it. So I think I am supposed to get rid of it because I am feeling the urge to. I don't know. Anyway, so let's continue reading. Wait, let me see. Okay, so let's continue. Okay. So for those who have ears capable of hearing this word of the teacher, this can be a source of salvation and freedom. No longer do we continue to indulge in the idolatry of matter. This appreciation of the ephemeral and relative nature of all things actually enables us to love better. Right. So I think you learn to love the moment because it's not ever going to be the same. It won't be the same for very long. So like right now, I know the world looks like it's going insane. There's a lot going on. A lot of negative. Or perceived as negative, but maybe what's needed to make the change to the positive, right? Sometimes, we have a saying like who don't learn this feel. So I think we are in a phase as a planet of learning by feeling the consequences of our choices. Not all of us, but the majority of us have made certain choices, and all of us now have to somewhat feel it. Although I think some of it we can have an effect on our own experience, so we don't have, such a contrasting experience as others may have. But anyway, so yeah, so like I know the world's going crazy, but I'm really grateful that IHOP is still open and I could still go at this time and have pancakes. Yeah, and French toast. I'm really grateful for that. Like, so grateful that that is still an option. I can still go to my doctor. I can still go to my pharmacy. I can still get lotions right now that, stuff for my skin. I still have all those options available to me. I don't know how long it will be available. Maybe it will be available hundreds of years more. I don't know, but I'm appreciative that it is this way right now. And I'm trying to enjoy Because time changes everything, even if there's not like a lot of bad things going on, right? The 80s is it's not the same as the 90s, it's not the same as the 2000s or the 2010s and the 2020s, right? So enjoying the time that I'm in and things that make it specific to it, things that link it to other times, but also things that make it specific, like music and clothes and news and thoughts and life events, but also like foods that are still available that I actually love, that things aren't completely shut down like it was for COVID. And I can still go to Marshalls and Publix and all these things I'm trying to enjoy that they're still available. It doesn't mean it's not going to be available anytime soon. But I'm enjoying that it's available now, right? I'm not looking at things as it will always be there. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I'm here now. There was a time when I was living other places under different conditions. My needs were met in different ways. I'm happy with the ways my needs are being met now. Um, and also allowing for if it does change in whatever way that I would like to appreciate that change for what it has to offer me as well, right? So this is a correct thing. Anyway, so let's continue. This appreciation of the ephemeral and relative nature of all things actually enables us to love better. We begin to see all things with that loving yet detached regard and equanimity that are the signs of a genuine health of soul. In Greek, the word soteria means both health, wholeness, and salvation. The teacher then adds, everything returns to its roots. Matter returns to the origins of matter. All evolution involves a return, yet a return in this sense is not the same as a regression. To return, hey, read this already? Yes. I'm so sorry, guys. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm on page 47 of the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. And speaking of the Logos, the Gospel of John 1:3, which was probably written during the same period, says that through him all things came into being. Not one thing came into being except through him. The Logos, the origin, this nothing that is the cause of everything. Oh, this is what I was talking about. The womb of emptiness. I forgot what I had stuff to tell you all about that. Anyway, the Logos, the origin, this nothing that is the cause of everything, and through which all things have their being. What are we speaking of when we speak of this divinity as he, she, or it? Surely it is nothing that can be imagined, thought, or represented. Yet, if we also subscribe to the principle that nothing comes from nothing, then what can be the meaning of this unthinkable fecundity, this womb of emptiness? Those who have ears let them hear. This recurrent phase is not some elitist irony through which the teacher alludes to secret tidbits, nor does it reflect an impatience with long explanations. It is an invitation. Yes, that's where I'd stop to tell you about the silence. You have to sit with the silence. This was my investment that I needed to make into my own healing, the time with myself in quiet. Some people call it meditation or prayer. I just call it time with myself and quiet. That's it. Sorry, guys. We are not yet speaking of the visionary new of the following verses, but of the contemplative intelligence that arises from endless wonder at all being. A kind of feeling for the infinite open, without which the unveiling of true being is impossible. I think that's where it starts to open up, that quiet time with yourself. For the real only offers itself to those who take the time needed to hear, those who can endure and listen fully to the silence of the fathomless before it finally begins to speak. So, you have to sit in the silence for a while before you're able to hear what it's saying. It's sometimes subtle. Once you start to hear it, it won't be that subtle. Shema Israel, listen, O Israel. The same practice that Moses advocated to his distracted, chattering companions is the one transmitted through the teaching of Yeshua. Okay, so going back to the verses in the Gospel of Magdalene. If the conscious subject has no ears, there will be nothing to hear. If the ears are not open, there will be nothing to hear. If the heart or the nous is not awake, there will be nothing to understand. Matter and its origins will offer them neither obscurity, nor clarity, nor meaning. Okay, continued. Page 7 continued from the Gospel of Mary Magdalene. Peter said to him, since you have become the interpreter of the elements and the events of the world, tell us, what is the sin of the world? The teacher answered, there is no sin. It is you who make sin exist. When you act according to the habits of your corrupted nature, this is where sin lies. Having listened to the teacher and having recognized him as the interpreter, he who imagines and gives meaning to the elements and events of the world, Peter now questions him in the language of that period about the sin of the world. The meaning of this term is often very unclear. Both in Yeshua's time and after, there were those who held that human nature itself is tainted with original sin. The matter, the world, and the body are traps from which deliverance is needed. When one sees sin and evil everywhere, the consequences are especially serious when they are seen as being in an other, for this other must then be destroyed or killed. Those who have committed such crimes in the name of the good see themselves not as murderers, but as saviors, ridding the world of sin and evil so as to make it pure again. All such persecutions, bans, burnings at the stake, and death camps are founded upon the same logic. The rotten apple must be removed from the bowl to rid the whole contents of contamination. All the rotten humans who trouble the corridors of power of the prince of this world must be liquidated in order to have an uncontaminated society. This is easily extended to whole groups or races of people who embody the evil. Otherwise, they will destroy us first. There's nothing new under the sun about this, for the monstrous banality of such thinking is still with us today. It still is. And just as it was in the early Christian times. So we still think this way, sadly. These mechanisms tend to repeat themselves so that when they carry the day, our present seems to be no more than the accumulation of our past. The new teaching has still not been heard. Yet the word of the teacher here is unmistakably clear in the way it cuts through this question. There is no sin. It is you who make sin exist. So we create what's right and what's wrong. There are, of course, different levels of interpretation of this. Let us begin with the traditional reading and see how it opens naturally into a deeper interpretation. It might be summarized as, there is no sin, only sinners. Matter, the world, the body, are not sinful in and of themselves, yet it is possible to make bad use of them. We are all more or less sinners to the degree that we do not know how to adjust or harmonize ourselves with the real. Instead of experiencing peace, we not only hit the wrong notes, but we create shrill disharmony and war. By the way, by listening to the Raw Contact, they in it, they say that we used to live 900 years and that we time limited. They gave a whole metaphysical reason why our lifetimes have been cut down to such a short period of time. But basically, it has to do the question I kind of simplified it and asked them, does it have to do because we started having war with each other and fighting each other? Basically, they said yes, in an oversimplified way, yes. So this harmony with each other kind of created, we weren't able to receive the love energy, or they call it infinite energy that comes in, that could, so that we could receive it in order to live the length of life we would need to live to understand our full being, which would be, I think, they said approximately 900 years. They said for 200 years, we are still like children in our spiritual self. 200 years, right? So it was really interesting. I think the book is interesting, The Raw Contact. If you can check it out, please let me know. I don't think I'm going to buy it to read it. I think that's going to drive me absolutely nuts reading it word for word. But if you can buy the book or uh, listen to it on Audible, it'd be great to have somebody to talk to about it because I think it's like it's really good. I'm so glad I came across it. So happy that the books that interest me, that I find the teachings to resonate, find me, you know. Also, the way I could not have listened to this book a year ago. Did not have the patience for it because they are speaking like like beings of a different dimension would speak, trying to use our language with us. But very grateful for it. Anyway, let's continue. Nevertheless, it is clear that matter is not bad, nor is anything that exists in the world. In fact, neither the body nor sexuality are bad or sinful. Echoes of the above passage can even be heard in the writings of Paul, for instance, in this extract from his letter to Titus 1:15. All is pure to those who are pure, but nothing is pure to those who are contaminated and do not believe. Also think this is true. What you see of the world is what you are. I remember like I had a night, I think I've shared this before. I'm Black. And, I do have sensitivities to colorism and racism all the time. But I don't feel I've experienced it in such a traumatic manner. But there's been some subtle things, right? In my dream, like one night they said, "You're racist." And I was like, "Me?" Like, and they let me know, yeah, that's the simple fact of I think a certain ethnicity likes to skip people line in the grocery store. They are more aggressive. That's racist. Think that way. It's stereotypical. And I laughed. I laughed so hard because I do think that way. I think it's not a serious, I had dismissed it as a mild thing, and that it's true. They really are like that. And I had to laugh because they let me know, no, the people that you want to say are racist and different, you're that too. That's why you can recognize it. That's why you see it, because that's what you are. And you have to love yourself as you are in order to transmute that to love and to understand why you're like that. I'm probably like that due to the experiences I've had, but it doesn't mean that everybody is like that. And to label a whole ethnicity that way is insane. So let me check myself and look at myself and love myself and understand myself and try to, yeah, love myself through that. But it also gave me, not to say that I excuse racists, they're on their own journey, but it's not something I I see the same way. I see it as, oh, there's something that needs healing there. I hope they get the healing and I can allow grace for it while not wanting to engage with it. Um, but I know that because listening to the Raw Contact, they said you will come to a stage in your evolution where you're able to lend yourselves to others healing, like what Jesus did, right? Like he They didn't want to, his followers didn't want him killed, and they were trying to save him. He said, no, let them do what they have to do. And he forgave the people that did it because they were learning. They didn't know better. He says it on the cross. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. So he has enough love in him to see the grace, to allow grace for those that are still in the process of healing, even though it's harming you. I'm not there yet. The VAR contact talks about it. They don't mention, I think they give Jesus as an example, but they talk about it in different spaces of the book and just how that progresses in, yeah, your own evolution. And of course, like, you should never do anything you're not comfortable doing, and enjoy this place that you are, and learn where you are. And you can't skip experiences. Like, you should experience your true feelings in things and not suppress. So I'm not there yet, and I accept that. Maybe one day I'll get there, you know. But definitely that's not part of how I enjoy being yet. Not in that way. I probably land myself in different ways, but not that way. So, and not yet ready to hurt myself for others, or allow others to hurt me so they can grow. Because they were saying when you're that way, it wouldn't affect how you view yourself and how you view the world, right? You would still be able to see the love that there is. So I think you won't be as hurt by it. But again, for my own, where I am in my process, I am still building my energy and my love for self. So I'm not there yet, to love myself in that way. But some people are. Some people are. Okay, so where are we? Okay, contaminated. But nothing is pure to those who are contaminated and do not believe. The meaning of Paul's words is this: it is you who have made sin exist. Because sin is not inherent in things, nor is it some element of the cosmos, nor the human nature. Yet it is definitely found in the way human nature is translated. And here Yeshua's word rejoins the etymology of the Greek word for sin, hamartia, to miss the mark. Through poor use of our senses, intelligence, and emotions, these faculties have become disoriented. They have lost their orient. That is to say, their attunement with the being that is at the heart of all the impermanent transitory phenomena of the world. It is only this disorientation that enables us to pervert ourselves, society, and universal order itself. As was said in the introduction, the only sin is that which we create with our sickly imagination. It is this imagination, or rather impoverishment of imagination, that needs to be healed. We are responsible for the world in which we live, for in a deep sense, it is we who create it by interpreting it positively or negatively. Our lack of enlightened imagination encloses the world in being or death, and encloses us in an arrested perception of the world. Our sickness is that we continually take our relative perceptions as absolutely real. We mistake our interpretations and readings of reality for reality itself. This is where illusion or sin lies, according to the teacher. It is you who makes sin exist. When you act according to the habits of your corrupted nature, this is where sin lies. Now, what does it mean to act according to the habits of your corrupted nature? First, it is acting according to modes of thought that have become what common language calls second nature, another nature that has been superimposed upon our true and innocent condition, a covering up of projections and priori assumptions and judgments that are more or less inherited from others. We apply these automatically and without the slightest concern for any examination or verification that might help us find out whether this prism through which we decipher reality is really telling us about reality or, on the contrary, hiding it from us. You see the splinter in the eye of your neighbor, but you do not see the log in your own. It is obvious that the word corrupted is used here, as used here, has no sexual connotation. As in the Bible, corruption is related to the deeper meaning of idolatry, taking as real that which is merely relative, or as Kierkegaard said, making the relative absolute and making the absolute relative. In other words, the dramatic sin of the contemporary world is its its relative relativizing of the absolute and its absolutizing of the relative. It is hard to imagine a better description of the nature of corruption. They lost me here, but okay. I guess making the absolute relative when the absolute is infinite. I don't know. This is the sickness of the intelligence as well as of the heart. It espouses its perceptions as truth, thereby betraying both truth and itself. One of the most painful consequences of this short-sightedness, this disorientation of desire, is taking yourself for what you are not, identifying yourself with an image. This is typically a representation derived, whether positively or negatively, from one that our parents or our peers may have of us. The pathologies that are known nowadays as inflation, megalomania, manic depressive swings, etc., are but extreme forms of this condition. It is interesting to note several correspondences between these passages and chapter 7 of Paul's epistle to the Romans. This theme will be explored in more depth later when we examine the teacher's words that urge us not to invent more laws. For where there are no law, there is no sin. As with Paul, without the law, sin is dead, and corruption is no more. In contrast to this, those who invent laws also make sin exist. Of course, laws surely do have a pedag pedago pedago oh my God, please, I cannot pronounce it. Pedago pedagogical pedagogical function. And in early stages of spiritual and physical development, it would be dangerous to do without them. So they are necessary at some point. A baby who eats food that's too solid will become ill, to use a metaphor of which Paul is fond. But for an adult, things are not the same. The Gospel of Mary is addressed to adults who have integrated the law in themselves. For them, the law is no longer a barrier for the movement of life and the inspirations of the Spirit. Like the wind, it fills the seals of their trust, of the truest desires, and calls them to the freedom of open spaces. In Hebrew, to be saved is to breathe freely. Let us now examine the parallels between Paul's epistle to the Romans and the Gospel of Mary. So we will continue that next podcast, the comparison of the Gospel of Mary and Paul's epistle. So, I was listening in the Aquarian Gospel of Jesus the Christ by Levi Dowling. Jesus in that book says that, laws exist, but the first law, of course, is to love others as you love yourself. That law of love will make all other laws unnecessary, really. And I've heard that a lot, like, growing up and in the Bible, like, in church. But what I did not get was the love of self, right? Because you can't treat others good if you treat yourself bad. If you don't love yourself, you cannot love others. So it says love others as you love yourself. It's been changed to treat others as you would treat yourself. Love, same, similar. You got to love yourself. That love will allow you to love others the same way, to give them the same grace, to want for them the best as you want the best for yourself. If you don't do this for yourself, you can't do it for others. But that is the one Lord, the law of love. That being, if all your life is started with that, then they wouldn't have no issues with any other laws, really. And that is just being good to yourself. That's just being patient with yourself, knowing yourself, loving yourself through all your different phases, your immaturity, to your growth, your expansion, to what you're able to do now, what you're not able, not overwhelming yourself, but also not limiting yourself. Like all of that plays out in all aspects of your life and with all that you encounter externally. So we don't need 10 million laws, but we do have all these 10 million laws. So that's just the way it is. But yeah, so that's how I look at it. And it's hard for me to even look at that as a law. I look at it as just my general well-being, right? This is good for me to love myself. This is good for me. It shouldn't be a law, right? So technically, if we look at it that way, we wouldn't need laws if we just start with that one. But that one thing, that one I don't like saying Lord. It's one thing to do good for yourself, love yourself, so you can love others. So you can have love in all that you encounter, all that you do, all that you, what in eating, in your work, in your family time, in your friends, in your extracurricular activities, in your hobbies, in your conversation, in your words, in your actions. Everything would be love because you love it yourself. Anyway, that's it for today. So my little insights. I don't know if anybody resonates with that, but if you do, or if you don't, let me. I like to talk. I don't like to debate though, but I do like to discuss and learn from others and stretch these thoughts and see what we else we can get from them that we weren't getting before. Anyways, guys, have a really good weekend. This is a long weekend. I appreciate the long weekends. Have a good time. Be gentle with yourself. Follow your joys. If you can, try to understand your dreams. You know, love yourself. Take time with yourself. Listen to yourself. Spend some quiet time with yourself as much as you can tolerate. I don't think there needs to be. I think it will grow in its own joy. So whatever, if you can just do 5 minutes, 1 minute, whatever it is, you find you start enjoying it and can do more, you know? So, anyways, guys, have a great weekend. We'll follow up soon. Bye.